I mean, at the height of the Cold War, Finn Galleries in Santa Fe is borrowed 36 fashion paintings from the Russian government at the height of the Cold War and opened a show in his gallery, including the big portrait of Lenin. The first portrait ever painted of Lenin was a fashion. It's hanging in my gallery.
Wow.
And my wife says, well, these guys knew that Armand Hammer was a good friend of mine, and he owned Occidental Petroleum. And he had introduced me to Madame Petrova, who was a Russian Minister of Culture for American and European Affairs. She had been the PR girl at the Russian Embassy in New York. She spoke some good English. She wore yellows and reds, and you never saw that in Russia. All the babushkas were gray and black. And but I got along with her pretty good. I went to Russia a number of times, and we always went to the circus. There's a circus in Moscow every night. And there was a KGB agent right here and one right here about 6 rows back. And I asked her, because they were there every night, I asked her if those were KGB, and she said, yes, they are. And I waved to them. We smiled. And I don't know whether I want to tell you guys this story or not, but we had a handshake deal for a 5-year cultural exchange program. The first year, I was going to go to any Russian museum I wanted to and pick out fashion paintings and bring them to my gallery and open a show. Then I was going to send them to the Buffalo Bill Museum in Cody, then to the Fry Museum in Seattle. Then I was going to send them back to Russia, and then I'll send them 36 American painted fashion paintings that I borrowed from the Cowboy Hall of Fame. Everybody in the world that had a great fashion painting, I borrowed it and sent it to Russia. And one night, things started going to hell. This was really before things started going to hell, but we came out of the circus about midnight. It was raining, and Madame Petrova didn't have a car, although she stood about 10 places away from Brezhnev at May Day parades. She was a big shot.
Wow.
She didn't have a car, and so she hailed a taxi cab down. She told the taxi cab to take me back to the National Hotel. Armand Hammer owned the whole 3rd floor of the National Hotel in Moscow, and I was staying in one of his rooms. And so she puts me. She was going to go that way, and I was going this way. So the cab driver starts taking me toward the National Hotel. It was 4 or 5 miles, I guess it was. And all of a sudden behind us, blue lights, 2 cars, police cars with blue lights flashing, stopped us. Soldiers with machine guns jumped out of those police cars, opened all 4 doors of the cab, and stand there like this. I was the only person in the back seat, and the driver was the only person in the front seat. They talked to him. I didn't know what they were talking about, but they were talking to him for a couple of minutes. Finally, they took him out of the car, put him in a police car, and drove away, and left me sitting in the cab with four doors open and driving rainstorm. Well, I sat there for a minute, and I said, my God, they arrested the wrong guy. I'm not going to tell you the other part of this story, but they arrested the wrong guy. And so I jumped out of the cab, and I went down into the subway. The subways are very elaborate. They have chandeliers. There's music playing all night long. And I sat down on a heater. Heat was coming out of a grill. I sat down on the heater because I was cold. And the next morning, when people started coming in the subway at first light, well, I got up, it had stopped raining, I started walking back to the National Hotel. It was a long walk, and I told myself they're going to be waiting for me. Not only was I staying in Armand Hammer's suite, but I was doing some things that they didn't like, and I walked in there, and there was nobody there. I mean, it was one of those times where I ducked a bullet. Jesus.
And did you go back again? You still went back because you said you've been there 17 times, or a lot of times.
I always went over there with 2 other guys.
Okay.
And we were all working for the same department. The rule that we made among ourselves was we would always go over together, and we would always come back together. We were not allowed to know what the other guys were doing for security reasons. But I went over there one time with these other two guys, and I got sick. And I was mobile, but I was sick, and we were waiting at the airport in Moscow, and over the loudspeaker, Mr. Finn, pick up the phone. You're wanted on the phone. First of all, it's impossible that would happen. In English, Mr. Finn, pick up the phone.
Right.
So I was not going to go to the phone, but one of these guys with me went to the phone and picked up the phone and said hello, and there was nobody there. But there was a guy standing there with a newspaper. He folded up the paper and he said, "Forrest, have a nice flight home." All of a sudden, I was not Mr. Finn anymore. I'm Forrest.
Right. Yeah.
And he walked away. In other words, Forrest, go home, shut up, and don't ever come back again. And I never did. That was...
Wow.
The story gets wild after that I don't want to go into.